What if we told you that the world's richest man was silently buying Bitcoin? Well, what we do know is that right now we are witnessing a Bitcoin supply shock. We can see that around 600,000 Bitcoin have left the exchanges over the past 7 months alone. And today we're going to be exposing some very, very cryptic tweets that I think makes the case that the world's richest man might have made a little bit of a Bitcoin backflip, and he could be responsible for buying some of those thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin on the exchanges. Before we start really uncovering the truth surrounding the world's richest man, I'm going to bring on my optimistic co-host to talk about what we do know for sure, and that is the Bitcoin supply shock. Opti and myself, we've been talking about the number of Bitcoin on exchanges here for a couple of weeks, and we've been really kind of scratching our heads saying, what is happening? Who is buying all of this Bitcoin? And we do have some really interesting data we want to dive into today, but let's start, without speculation, Opti. Let's just bring a new person up to speed on what we can see that we know for sure. Let's start with this chart here.
Yeah, so we have been watching this, and if you've seen Luke on the show, you know we've been hitting this idea for a while. If you watch Rustin's show, we know he created the meme, the mother of all supply shocks. Everyone is kind of wondering a couple of things. Obviously, what is going on with the Bitcoin price when you're getting this incredible amount of interest from corporate treasuries, which we will cover in the news later today on the show? If they are actually buying all of this Bitcoin, where is it coming from? Obviously, Luke will probably expand a little bit on the idea of exchanges leaving, or Bitcoin leaving the exchanges, more of what retail is kind of focused on. But this chart here that I found of the over-the-counter Bitcoin being drained, I think it's very interesting. And for those people that don't really understand what over-the-counter really means, is essentially, they have brokers that they can buy Bitcoin essentially on the back end. This Bitcoin isn't on the exchanges. This isn't getting, depleted from the exchanges that you buy, say, on, Bitcoin Well or Coinbase or Binance or whatever your favorite exchange is. This is not what the public sees per se. This is if you are a huge broker. This is if you're buying huge chunks of Bitcoin at a time. And I think this is pretty compelling data here. Luke, I can't see these numbers here, but we've seen it, drop?
Let me walk through it.
Yeah, read that a little bit because I can't fully see that.
Let me get my big ugly head close to the camera. We can see that this number, the Bitcoin on the over-the-counter desk, this peaked at 600,000 coins back in 2019. And this has been relatively consistently going down to today. There's about 155,000 Bitcoin on the exchanges. So we've seen about, 75% of all of the supply on the OTC desks drained. And what's really important about that number, Opti, which relates to what you just said, is this is like the secret desk. This is like the secret stash of Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly.
That the big boys use to buy their Bitcoin without moving the price. So this is maybe why we've been going a little bit extra bull-tarded over the past 6 months, because have a look at how quickly this trend has been accelerating to the downside, okay? This has been really moving down in a big way recently. And what we continue to say here on the show is like, look, we don't know what's going to happen when this number of Bitcoin on OTC desks hits zero. And again, we're not just cherry picking data here. We know the Bitcoin on the broader exchanges as well has been consistently trending down for about, 5 years consistently. I like this chart. It shows us the different epochs, but the chart that shows us the past 3 years of data is this one here from CryptoQuant. And this looks scary. Like this is a parabola to the downside. This is insane. And we just think like, hey, if this continues, maybe the Bitcoin price is going to really surprise us to the upside. What do you think, Opti? What's your read into these OTC desks?
Well, as this comment says right here from the chat, shouts out to David. He goes, 156K of OTC Bitcoin is critically low. I think this is kind of the simple supply and demand economics around Bitcoin. Again, I hate using the term there's not that much Bitcoin, But when you really look at the data, it is starting to paint a picture that there really isn't that much Bitcoin on exchanges. And what has to happen for more Bitcoin to hit the exchanges? The price of Bitcoin has to go up. And that's the big question everyone's been asking here. You know, is there paper Bitcoin? Or rather, how much paper Bitcoin is in the system right now? How much paper Bitcoin is actually being traded? There's a whole new, screed on Twitter about Bitcoin corporate treasuries being the new paper Bitcoin play. And that doesn't even account for the fact that maybe the nation states are also buying Bitcoin. There has been some concerns of whether the ETFs actually own all that Bitcoin that they, supposedly bought. I think now it's very clearly over 1 million Bitcoin that the ETFs have gobbled up. We know Saylor is buying, I would think he's damn near 600,000 Bitcoin. Like, where is all the Bitcoin coming from here? And as a lot of people have been saying on Twitter, and I'm not saying this is the case here. I really don't believe this is the case. But as people have been trolling, it's going to be very interesting if we find out that there's really more than 21 million Bitcoin being traded on these paper Bitcoin trades here. So it is looking like what Luke has been saying, what Peter Dunworth has been saying. I don't know if you guys saw yesterday's show, but Luke was super bullish about it. Honestly, when you first told me this idea, I was like, yeah, that it makes sense logically. The idea of, hey, less Bitcoin is going to be on exchanges, but those values of those Bitcoin per Bitcoin will go up, and that will account for basically the global, liquidity of Bitcoin. The logic makes perfect sense. But the idea that I've been kind of pushing back on the show when we talk about this is, I do believe that at any price there will be some Bitcoin. It just means that other, older holders are essentially incentivized to chip off a little bit of their purchasing power in Bitcoin. So there's always, I think, a price that people will sell their Bitcoin at. Maybe everyone has a different price. I mean, we've been kind of covering the data here on the show. If you're an OG and you bought Bitcoin at $100, $1, a penny or whatever, 100K was your moonshot. So we're seeing a lot of old time holders, distributing their Bitcoin, and they are taking some purchasing power gains off the top. Well, for you, if you bought at 100K, that number might be 1 million. That number might be 10 million. You will eventually use, or rather, cement your purchasing power here. So I always kind of push back on that a little bit, but the data is showing us someone is buying all of this Bitcoin, whether it's the corporate treasuries, whether it's the nation states, or as we've seen this new trend, it might be billionaires starting to FOMO into Bitcoin. They might be looking at what we're seeing and being like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I actually do have to diversify out of the traditional financial system, and maybe it is time for me to buy some Bitcoin. And that really leads into this speculation, I think we could say. This is a little bit of speculative here, but I think, I think we might have hit on something. So, Luke, you want to pull those tweets up and let's have everyone throw tomatoes at us.
Absolutely. Let's bring the tomatoes. So again, we've kind of set the table, so to say. We got a supply shock, but who's damn creating it? That's the big kind of question we've got. And I think the first kind of tweet I think I might bring up. Do you want to do tweets or articles first?
I don't know. I think we let them wait long enough. Let's pull up the tweets.
Let's dive into it. Okay, so this is the first one that you slid across my desk this morning, Opti. All right, the rumors are true. Elon is stacking Bitcoin again. So of course, the world's richest man is about a $400 billion.
Yeah, I saw two different numbers this morning. One was $409 billion of wealth. The other one was 379. So suffice to say, above $300 billion of wealth sitting there. And it looks like he might have got caught on Twitter.
So before maybe we talk about how he got caught, Opti, do you want to walk the people through who he recently appointed at Twitter?
Yeah. Let me, do you have those tweets? Let's pull that up. So
absolutely.
As you can see, actually go back for a second. Let's explain what is going on with these tweets here. So a Bitcoiner on Twitter who is kind of known for, trolling a little bit. Did I lose Luke? Luke, your camera's dying on you.
Still here. I'm just charging batteries in the background.
All right, no worries. Pull up the original Chris coin join Chris tweet here. So I don't know if you guys heard. There's actually, we'll probably talk about it later, but Elon Musk has been going out here. We all know he had this saga over at Doge. He basically got burnt out. His whole goal here was to cut spending from the federal government level. And then he is now disillusioned, right? He was going at the president. He is going on Twitter essentially saying, hey, this two-party system is basically the uni-party system. We need a third party, the American party. And Bitcoiners have been going crazy about it. They're like, look, bro, I get it. You're burnt out with politics, but at this point, you should probably understand that there is no stopping this train. You can't fix politics from the inside of the fiat system. And so a lot of Bitcoiners kind of went out yesterday because he was doing these polls. He went out yesterday and was like, all right, we need a new party. This is the only way we're going to cut spending. Again, his biggest issue is with government spending, which is obviously something we talk about here constantly. But there was a point yesterday where people were tagging Elon Musk and like, hey, bro, the third party is not going to work. The real fix here is you stacking Bitcoin. And someone tagged Musk and was like, why isn't Elon Musk stacking Bitcoin? Bitcoin is the only way to fix this. You can't fix the party from the inside. And then CoinJoin Chris here, as you can see very cryptically, was maybe he is stacking quietly. And what happened afterwards was kind of where the speculation starts. Mm-hmm. So he posted a screenshot of Elon Musk liking this tweet. As you can see here, maybe he's stacking quietly. Elon Musk liked it. Not saying, just because you send a like doesn't necessarily mean that he is agreeing with this. But I think this might be telling us something here because Elon Musk hasn't really engaged with Bitcoin on Twitter for years now. We have seen the saga, and if you want to pull up those tweets, and the speculation was people were saying, oh, this is probably fake. He's just doing this for engagement. He later came out on Twitter and was essentially saying, no, dude, like this was actually the Elon Musk verified account to like this. But an interesting tidbit about this is yesterday as well, that this guy, Nikita Beer, I believe it's Nikita Beer and maybe Nikita Bear, he just got appointed as head of product at Twitter or at X. And we all know that the CEO has been going out, CEO of Twitter or X has been coming out and saying, Twitter X payments are coming soon. We want them to be peer-to-peer payments, directly. We want X to be your all-in-one financial app. And this guy yesterday was just appointed head of product at Twitter. But that's not the news in and of itself. Luke, if you're still there, let's pull up his other tweet here. And I think all of this is kind of making a case for potentially the direction we're seeing Twitter go. One, the CEO, the biggest shareholder at Twitter, is now liking Bitcoin tweets about him quietly stacking Bitcoin. And now the new head of product of Twitter, which we know is trying to go towards Twitter payments or Twitter X money or peer-to-peer payments, as it was said in that clip. And here's his tweet. I think there's a non-zero chance we piss off enough countries, decimate foreign demand for treasuries, obliterate the dollar, and everyone realizes that this style of negotiation was a one-way door, and we all switched to Bitcoin. And this wasn't a tweet a long time ago. This was about, a month ago, April 4th, 2025? So all of that is to say, yes, we are speculating a little bit here, but it looks like Twitter may be becoming more friendly around Bitcoin. Are they finally coming around? Will we see Bitcoin actually implemented into Twitter? Because that would be huge. I forget how many users are on Twitter, but it is one of the dominant social media apps. And, we all know how much we love Primal. Primal's apps is basically the only reason why you be on Primal at this point. Like, yes, I love the free speech aspect, the fact that, it's censorship resistant. You can't really delete stuff. But everyone loves the Zap feature. That's really what people love there. And if Twitter implements that, I don't know, it's game on for social media here. Okay, what do you have there? 250 million? 200 million plus users. That would be huge. That would be a game changer. So, we know the Musk saga in Bitcoin is kind of controversial here. 2021, they talked about, Tesla's not going to accept Bitcoin payments anymore until, it's been proven that Bitcoin is 51% green. And then that happened. And sorry, Luke, I can hear you. Are you there? Yes. Your camera's still off.
I'm blessing the people with my beautiful voice, but not my big ugly face today. You're 100% right. So Tesla, obviously there's a little bit of that speculation, right? Why did Tesla ban Bitcoin payments back in 2021? They came out, they put $1.5 billion on the balance sheet of Tesla, their publicly traded company. They said, yeah, you know what? We'll even accept Bitcoin for Teslas. But and then what's interesting is as Bitcoin was pumping, weeks after China banned Bitcoin, way back in 2021, Elon also said, yeah, you know what? Bitcoin's too dirty, Opti. We don't want to accept that for payment. We're going to halt our horses here. But what I found interesting with Musk was he didn't actually sell the Bitcoin on the balance sheet for a lot of time there in 2021. It wasn't until I think, was it this article in mid 2022 that he actually sold $64 million? He was just testing the liquidity of the Bitcoin on the balance sheet.
I think that was Luke. I think that was two different ones. Cause I remember in 2021, I think that's the time actually I was kind of shocked by that. The 2021 Tesla payment green saga was 2021. Like time really does fly past. But if I can remember correctly, I think it was around that time. And then we see this here where he did sell some Bitcoin for a profit. And Luke, I don't know if you're going to touch on this article a little bit, but just hit that subtitle right there. That's really the signal here. And we all know what happened with Saylor recently.
Absolutely. Tesla made millions when it offloaded 75% of its Bitcoin last quarter. But accounting rules mean it still took a hit to its balance sheet. You make a really good point there, Opti. Michael just recorded, what was it, a $14 billion profit it looks like he's going to secure a $14 billion profit in Q2. And why is that? That's because the accounting rules have now changed since Elon Musk initially had to kind of deal with the, let's say, not so optimal, fair value accounting that Bitcoin didn't have back in 2022. So obviously now things have changed, Opti. This is another extra layer here that a lot of people are saying, hey, is Elon going to start aggressively putting it on the balance sheet?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and to that point, we still know Tesla owns about 11.4 thousand Bitcoin, so 11,400 Bitcoin still on the Tesla balance. Yeah, pull that up. What's the numbers there?
They've got 11,509.
Okay, more. So, maybe they're not continuously accumulating Bitcoin, but they still hold a sizable chunk of Bitcoin. So we do know he's, on the one hand, a believer. There is some good clips of Elon from the past essentially saying, AI and it can't crack Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a good idea. And then he kind of goes out and trolls about Doge. And then he says some dumb things about Bitcoin. I think he said the only thing more BS than Bitcoin is fiat or something like that. So he's an edgelord here. He loves trolling. But maybe his stint in government maybe kind of triggered something in him where he's like, yeah, you know what? Maybe these Bitcoiners are right. Nothing does stop this train. Inflation is out of control. They're going to just continue to print. They continue to spend billions of dollars. And I do have an update on the big, beautiful bill that relates to Bitcoin. But we saw, it's really more of the same here in regards to what's coming out of the federal level. And so maybe that stint in government kind of did open his eyes to the fact that, yeah, actually, you probably can't fix this system from within. Maybe we need to try something alternatively. Maybe we need a parallel system, aka Bitcoin. So who knows if he's coming around, but I did find this very interesting. He's interacting with Bitcoiners again, and whenever he does that, he usually does do a pivot into Bitcoin. He's been ignoring us for years at this point. It might be time. It might be time, Luke.
I think it has to be time. Think about the other billionaires right now, Opti. This is something else that we haven't really talked about here on the show for a little while. But let's not forget, Microsoft shareholders wrote a letter to the board and they said, please, will you do your due diligence on Bitcoin? Will you reinvestigate Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset? And I think a number of these very large top 10 publicly traded companies were all forced to look into Bitcoin. I remember Microsoft, maybe Amazon from memory. I think there was another one in that top 10 that was also kind of written to from its shareholders. And Tesla, again, it's just another one of these big guys who right now must be feeling the heat that Michael Saylor is applying to those big multi-trillion-dollar companies. Because I really would love if somebody made an updated chart of the MicroStrategy balance sheet, because there's a really cool chart flying around a little while ago, and it showed that MicroStrategy's balance sheet was like in the top 10 purely because of its Bitcoin holdings. Now we are talking about, this is all of the publicly traded companies in the world. At the top of this chart, we got Apple, $156 billion on the balance sheet. We got Alphabet, $93 billion, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta. These are the who's who. Now, obviously, this is a little bit of an outdated chart, but Michael right now, if I were to pull up Saylor Tracker, let's create our own chart live.
Yeah. I think it's like 44 billion, right?
Higher. 65 billion.
65. That's crazy. So what? More than General Electric. That's insane.
Let's jump back on over to our chart and let's put things into perspective. Because again, people are like, okay, MicroStrategy, it's a fringe Bitcoin stock. No, guys, MicroStrategy's got $66 billion of Bitcoin. It's just behind Meta. It literally has the 6th largest treasury in the entire world.
Wait, Luke. For the audio listeners, just name those top 5 companies just to kind of put this into context of how insane this move by Saylor actually was.
We got Apple, $156 billion. Then there's a big drop off. Alphabet, 93. Amazon, 88. Microsoft, 78 billion. Meta, 70 billion, and then Michael is just behind them. He's chomping at the heels. He's got $66 billion of Bitcoin on the balance sheet. So again, what we would need to see is like just a couple more Bitcoin buys, and Michael could have the 2nd largest treasury in the entire world. And that's all of a sudden, what does Musk do now? Musk has to adopt Bitcoin. There's no other alternative.
Yeah, and further, I think we did play it on the show, that clip of Saylor basically saying, I watch Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, turn their companies into these huge super companies, billionaires. They get all the accolades. And he was sitting on the sidelines like, how can I do that for me? He implements Bitcoin. And I say all that to say, like, these billionaires are in competition with each other of who can be the more badass billionaire. And maybe Musk is seeing this and being like, you know what, maybe there's something to that. And I do want to add one more little wrinkle here. We all do know, or rather maybe you don't, but we have heard that, one of the main reasons for Musk kind of moving away from the government, besides his like disillusionment with it, is that Tesla was kind of struggling for a little bit. We all know there was protest against it. There was all kinds of upheaval around Tesla. He kind of had to move back and focus on Tesla because the earnings calls were really bad at that same time. So, not saying Tesla as a company is going to do bad, because I see Teslas everywhere, but maybe he'll supercharge that company by really going balls deep into Bitcoin. Sorry, family show. Going very, head first into Bitcoin. Again, I'm biased here. Maybe I'm reading into things, but we are seeing that we might get a new wave of Elon Musk shilling Bitcoin. Let's just hope he stays away from Doge again, because maybe now he finally realized the error of his ways.
Gosh, I hope he does stay away from Doge. Here's the interesting thing, Opti, and again, we'll play that. Maybe we'll play that video for the people after the next segment. We'll find that video for you guys.
The Saylor one?
Yeah. But what's really
let me see if I can find it.
Is that, again, we agree Elon is going to have to adopt Bitcoin at some stage. And when he does, back to the chart that I always scream about like a female, we could see that literally, take a look at it. There's 2.2 million Bitcoin on exchanges, and Michael at MicroStrategy holds 600,000. So there's literally enough Bitcoin on exchanges for another 3 billionaires or 3 entities. This could be 3 companies. This could be 3 nation states to buy more Bitcoin than MicroStrategy. And I agree with your point, Opti. These guys, I believe that they do kind of look at this as a competition. It is a huge competition for them. And Michael right now, he is within striking range of having the second most valuable treasury in the entire world. We could literally see this in a matter of months. It's not that far away at all. So again, this goes back to the supply shock aspect that we continue harping on. Like, it is real, it is scary. We've got all of these billionaires interested in Bitcoin. We've got Jeff Bezos partying on the Giga Chad's yacht at Christmas. We've got, what's his name? Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta. He has a goat named Max, and the other is named Bitcoin. And we have all of these other billionaires in the top 10 slowly making a pivot into Bitcoin. And maybe today, Opti, today on Twitter, you might have found that one liked tweet from our friend Elon that also suggests he's about to make a play into Bitcoin too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And then I found the clip here, so I'll pivot the numbers. We'll continue this conversation because I think it's fitting considering what we're talking about today. But on that note, guys, of course, I want to remind you, and Luke, pop off. Let's try to get your camera going again, and I'll handle this. We'll keep it going. So pop off, pop back on. Hopefully your camera works, and I'll keep it running. All right, guys, I do want to remind you guys, of course, if you like this show, please smash the like button. And then, of course, comment on the video. Let us know. Do you think Elon Musk is buying? Or rather, do you even care if Elon Musk is buying? I think might be a more fitting question here. And, of course, hit the subscribe button because we are dropping not only the best content around Bitcoin, but the most content around Bitcoin. We have the live show Monday through Friday at 12:15 p.m. And then Dante, Rustin, and Oceans continue to drop that hot fire for you guys basically every single day. Subscribe. We are killing it here. All right. Anyways, pat myself on the back. All right.
I'll come back and pat it for you in a minute.
Yeah. Before we move on, though, I do want to give a shout out to our partner, Bitcoin Well. Hold on. I can't find it for some. There it is. Shout out to Bitcoin Well. It is the best place to buy Bitcoin. They literally have never lost a customer sat because you need a Bitcoin wallet to buy Bitcoin from them. As soon as you send your money and it clears, that Bitcoin is sent directly to your cold storage, directly to your wallet. This is self-custody by demand. Again, has never lost a sat, and they will never lose Bitcoin that you have bought from them. This is why we love them. This is why we partnered with them. It's the best way to buy Bitcoin. It's the best way to ensure that you are a part of the revolution, because you need to take your Bitcoin into custody. Do not leave it on an exchange. And Bitcoin Well ensures that that is not the case. All right, looks like we got Luke back. And of course, if you scan the QR code and you sign up today, you get 3 chances to win 1 million sats. Who knows what the Bitcoin or the dollar price of that is today? But hey, who doesn't like free money? Who doesn't like free Bitcoin? It's basically a faucet here. Remember the faucets? Now they're creating their own faucet. All right, guys. On that note, I do have it pulled up. We'll play the Saylor clip again, and we will chat about it a little more.
I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stamp Seed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on StampSeed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store. Head over to stampseed.com today.
Alrighty then, guys. Oh, let's go. Okay, I'm over here on Clark Moody's dashboard. As you can see, the Bitcoin price is currently at 109,480. Shouts out to the bulls out there. You know, a big middle finger to the bears, especially my friend that is still blowing up my phone and saying if we don't break all-time high in 13 days, it's over, bro. I was actually trolling him yesterday because we did see the Bitcoin price kind of respond negatively to this Bitcoin, or beautiful bill, and it went to like 105, and now we're back at basically 110. Down negative 2.2% on the all-time high price, and he's still bearish. It make it make sense. Make the math make sense to me. How could you be bearish at a negative 2% all-time high price? Like, what is going guys? You know, go outside and like enjoy life a little bit. Get off the doomer Twitter corner. It's like the Lion King, you know, that dark corner over there on Twitter. Stay away from it. Do not follow the doomers. It is not profitable for your wallet, and it is not good for your mental health. Anyways, the block height is currently at a 903,696. The market cap is currently at $2.18 trillion. We are at 9.27% of the gold market cap. And then, of course, probably the best number here for the hard money advocates, the realized monetary inflation, 0.84%. It's the hardest money period. Nothing comes close to it, and that is going to continue to go down. Again, I think when we first started this was at like 3.94% when we first started covering that metric. 0.84%. You know, the fiat central bankers wish they could get to 2%, and they can't even do that. And then everyone's out here like, oh, Bitcoin's over, bro. Like, this Bitcoin thing's done. Oh. All right, anyways. We were just talking about the Saylor clip. I'll stop rambling and more here, and I'll play the clip, and then we'll kind of continue this conversation.
And a guy, after 30 years in business and an engineering education, reasonably educated, but not a classically trained economist, not an Austrian economist, I am struggling with the time-honored question, what is money? I need a liquid, fungible asset which will store my economic energy for an indefinite period of time. And so what is money? I'm looking for money. And eventually I get to gold. And I'm thinking, should I buy $500 million of gold? And, my attorney, he looks at me and goes, Mike, I remember when gold was $800 an ounce back in the 70s or the 80s, and then it went nowhere for 20 years, and you should be careful about that. And it's kind of dead money. And then so I'm sitting at this table and I'm watching the world burn while all the Wall Street guys get rich and the talking heads on CNBC say what they're saying. And I'm looking out at Miami Beach, and I'm looking at Collins Avenue, and every car is there's no cars on the road except for an Amazon truck, which just makes me angry. One Amazon truck going by. And I've got 82 birds in my backyard, and they're hunting for worms because all the restaurants in Miami Beach shut down. So whoever was feeding them is not feeding them. So I'm watching us strip the world back to the Stone Age, right? A devolution. And I'm staring over my pool and I look at Eric and I say, Eric, tell me about that Bitcoin thing again. And Eric was a crypto entrepreneur and he had been investing in digital assets and crypto. And I had dismissed him 2 years earlier in 2018. I was like, oh, that's probably just a scam coin. That's going to collapse. But, you know, everybody finds this when you know, if I tell you got 6 months to live, you would go looking for a cure. And if I told you every asset that you hold in Canada is going to be seized from you within 6 months,
that could happen.
You would think about how you're going to get your money out of Canada.
Yeah, we already thought about that.
You know, and the point is you didn't think about it for the 20 years of your career when it just wasn't the priority.
Yeah.
And then when you're faced with a crisis, a challenge, you start thinking.
All right, guys, sorry. I picked the wrong one here. Opti producing on the fly. You know, I'm no Jamie here. But the clip from this Jordan Peterson interview that I literally think it followed right after this is this idea that he said, you know, he was sitting there during 2020. He had a zombie company, and there was a specific clip. I wish it was the right one, but you know, I tried to produce on the fly, and you know, forgive me. And he basically said, you know, I've watched my peers like Elon Musk, like Mark Zuckerberg, you know, like Jeff Bezos, turn their companies into these hugely influential billion-plus trillion-dollar companies. They're billionaires. They're on, you know, the front pages of the magazines. They get all the accolades. And here he is as like a lowly billionaire, you know, and he's like, you know, I want some of that for myself. Though in that clip, you did kind of get a little bit of what he was talking about. Again, forgive me for pulling the wrong one up. But he did mention, you know, I saw an Amazon truck go across the street and it pissed me off. Now, is he mad because Amazon's the only company that's, you know, working at the time? No, he's pissed off because it's his billionaire, you know, peers company, the only thing working right there. So again, the reason we brought that up, you guys have probably seen that clip on the show a couple of times. This idea, like the billionaires are in competition with each other to see who can outmatch each other. And only Saylor's the one that's playing the real game right now. He's the only one that has fully exited the system. He's the only one that is seeing the horizon here. But if what we said in the beginning is true, and Elon Musk does take a, you know, deep dive into Bitcoin, I'm not saying he's going to do a full Saylor strategy, you know, convertible bond thing here, but it's safe to say that he has a pretty good stack and that he is stacking, and we'll see what comes out of Tesla, of Twitter. It might be on the horizon. We've been speculating on this show for a while whether Twitter would implement Bitcoin. It might be closer than we could even imagine. It might be on the horizon. You know, when I forget what her last name is, Linda Yun something, the CEO, or not the CEO, she's I think CIO of Twitter right now. She came out and said, we're turning Twitter into the peer-to-peer payments app, your everything app. And when I heard that, all I could think of was Bitcoin. Now, we know they're not the biggest Bitcoin believers, but I think with this new information of Musk essentially kind of dabbling with Bitcoin Twitter, I think it's higher than non-zero chance here. It might be, you know, someone pull up the Kashi ads or the Polymarket odds here of whether Twitter is going to implement Bitcoin. I'm sure it is skyrocketing at this point. Anyway, forgive me. Yeah, Elon Musk, Jeff who, Saylor, Musk who, Zuck who, Jeff who. I don't know. Again, sorry, Luke, I pulled up the wrong one, but the point remains the same. You guys can find it on Twitter. Go watch the Jordan Peterson interview and you'll see it there. I'm not making this stuff up.
The point stands. I've seen the clip. I can verify for you.
Yeah.
I've seen the clip, and it is incredibly bullish. I think I believe this for a while. I do think that the world's richest leaderboard, it's kind of like I need to be really careful what I say. It's a competition. That's what I will say. I think billionaires are measuring each other against each other's net worth. That's a family-friendly way that I think the billionaires look at net wealth, okay? So I do think now that we've got Michael, who's gone from having, I checked this in 2020, the 4,000th and 550th most valuable company, to now having the second most valuable treasure in the world, which I think is months away. people's going to be looking at that and say, hang on a minute. He's gone from number 4,550 to number 2. What the hell did he do? I need to get me some of that sauce. And I just think that day is coming. I think we're slowly starting to see this ramp up, so to say. I think the exponential decrease of Bitcoin on the exchanges and the exponential increase of the Bitcoin treasury companies is a signal that the Saylor treasury flywheel is going global. I think you actually said this to me this morning before our call, Opti. You said for the past 3 quarters in a row, the treasuries, the public companies with Bitcoin treasuries, they've bought more Bitcoin than the ETFs for 3 quarters in a row. That is actually huge.
Yeah, no, we're totally going to break that down for you guys right now. But yeah, it's actually incredible. And I know a lot of people on Twitter, you mentioned, the flywheel is just starting to begin. I know there's a lot of pushback right now on Twitter, essentially saying like, oh, why would you sell your Bitcoin to buy some Bitcoiner stock here? Like, it's paper Bitcoin. This is not what we're here for. You guys are selling out. You guys are into these shit coiners, suit coiners, etc. But I don't think it's an either or scenario here. Like, I know when I came out around, the very beginning of at first Saylor, you're just like, this is incredible. He's obviously putting on a masterclass. Then you start seeing some copycats. And my first knee jerk reaction was also like, this is starting to feel like the altcoin bubble again. But the more I dug into it, the more it's becoming kind of obvious to me that there is a lot of capital that can't find its way into Bitcoin yet. And, who am I to fault them for trying to get some Bitcoin exposure? I don't think it's, one way to skin a cat. I think there's a lot of ways to basically tap into the fiat system, get it into Bitcoin. Eventually, they will become Bitcoiners. And as you said, I don't think this is going to blow up this year. Like, this could be, a 10, 20-year game where we don't really see a blow up for a while. Like, I really do think this is the beginning of, Bitcoin tapping into fiat liquidity. And hopefully in time, as we're seeing with what Saylor's doing, that will essentially bring up the spot price of Bitcoin as well. So, I think this is how hyper Bitcoinization happens. Actually, my favorite meme right now is someone doing like the, Bitcoiners want hyper Bitcoinization. Hyper Bitcoinization happens. No, not like that. This is not how it's supposed to happen. And like, this is just what it feels like to me. Again, 45 IQ here. What do I know? But this is kind of, the sentiment that I'm feeling. Yes, on like a surface level, you're like, this is a shit coin. Why would you buy this? This is paper Bitcoin. When you kind of really look into the mechanics, this is another speculative attack as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, that's spicy. Speculative attack. Yeah, I think that's what we're seeing. I think it is slowly unfolding. I like how you delivered that. 100% true. And I think the big one that you just mentioned there, you made a really good point. You said so many people are looking at Bitcoin being adopted by the billionaires, the nation states, the corporations, the pension funds, the sovereign wealth funds, and they're saying, oh no, Bitcoin's failed. Bitcoin's captured because BlackRock holds 3% of the supply. But again, this is not a sign that Bitcoin's failing. This is a sign that we are winning. And this is, like you said, Opti, this is hyper Bitcoinization. If Bitcoin is going to be worth tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars per coin.
Wait. What'd you say yesterday? $7 billion.
I didn't want to scare the guys. I didn't want to get people leaving the live stream when I got too bullish. We'll stick to hundreds of millions today. Let's be conservative. But for Bitcoin to be tens of millions and, let's extrapolate, very valuable in the future, but it would look like the big money gets into Bitcoin. Again, this narrative of Bitcoin just being digital gold and $500,000 a coin and diminishing returns every 4-year cycle and Bitcoin's volatility getting less and less and less, all of those narratives are based upon the first 11 years of Bitcoin when there was no big money. I would believe the power law, the power opinion, the quantile model, diminishing returns. I would believe all of these models. Really, I would. If nothing changed in 2020, if we still had the same entity and the same market actors dominating the market, and if the supply-demand equation was the same pre-2020, nobody wanted Bitcoin. We can see that very clearly. We've showed you the data. I've got it right here. Pre-2020, we can see that the number of Bitcoin on exchanges only rose. And that's because nobody understood Bitcoin. And that's because this market was dominated by inexperienced retail participants. That's all changed now. We're in a completely different realm. We're in a realm where the billionaires are dominating the market. And again, this is why we're going to see Bitcoin surprise many people to the upside. Some people say we're on the precipice of a Bitcoin price explosion. I would personally go that far, but I think this is just inevitable. And I think trying to model, predict, or trade the next 5 years is going to be incredibly, again, careful with my words.
Not smart.
There you go. Not smart. Don't do it at home, guys. Just buy your Bitcoin, put your Bitcoin into cold storage, just stack sats, be humble. Again, that's from Opti's and myself's perspective. Like a lot of people say, oh, you know, you just say what you do for the views. No, if we were just saying what we did for the views, it'd be a completely different narrative. We would tell you, oh, buy all of these shitcoin stocks with Bitcoin on the treasury. Trade stock to flow, trade the power opinion. Those are the hot and sexy topics. It's actually, it's not popular to say that model's wrong, those people are morons, and don't buy into the new hyped treasury companies. Just keep it simple and boring. Buy Bitcoin, put it into self-custody, and back up your damn 12 or 24 words. That's not sexy. That's not nice. But again, that's what we're all about here at Simply Bitcoin. And again, you guys Simply Bitcoin's been making content for 5 years for you guys, telling you, stay away from BlockFi, stay away from FTX, stay away from Celsius. Don't chase the girl in that beautiful red dress. It is a trap. Be careful. Be very cognizant of the new current thing. Keep it simple and you will end up with generational wealth. That day's coming, and I think
Hey, look, guys, I really wish I could tell you right now that I'm selling you, just stack sat, stay humble, stay solvent as, this shill, this internet, persona. And I was really, 25xing my portfolio with MetaPlanet and strategy. Like, I really wish I could tell you that right now. But no, I eat my own food as well. This is what I'm doing. Obviously, hindsight is 2020. I think this is going to really take the world by storm. But, I'm just stacking sats. I'm just, acquiring Bitcoin, trying to be more profitable each month and making sure that my, cost of living is lower than the money coming in. Like, I really wish I could tell you that, no, I am actually, I went, I sold all my Bitcoin for MicroStrategy and MetaPlanet, and I freaking I don't even know what the cumulative returns for both of those, if you were able to do, that's like a 70x here. I really wish I could tell you that that's what I did. I didn't do that. I really wish I did now in hindsight, but no, I just, I eat my own cooking here. I stack sats. I stay humble. As Luke was saying, I think in time, you're going to be happy. It will be generational wealth. So yeah, man, I really wish I could tell you that, but I didn't. Yeah, I didn't do that. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, hindsight's 2020, and you're right. We could have 100x'd our portfolio.
Sounds legit.
Absolutely, but again, there's the risks involved.
Yeah,
in
100%.
You don't hold the keys. You don't own that keys. You've got your Bitcoin stuck on a centralized stock brokerage platform in the form of IOUs, hoping that they're going to return your money to you one day. Again, I think it's incredibly risky. We've seen dangerous narratives circulate the world over the past 5 years. In 2020 in Australia, there was a global push, a public push on mainstream media to tax me because of my medical choices. Again, that was insane. If you really think that that's never going to occur again, and if you don't think that that was the foot in the door or the Overton window shift, sure. If you think it was a once-off, maybe you'll feel comfortable with 10% of your net worth on a stock brokerage platform. But I personally don't. I'm 100% all in Bitcoin because of that sovereignty that holding your own keys actually provides you. And again, I think that's where it all comes down to. Everything else is a gamble, but Bitcoin in self-custody is the only thing that you can be sure of.
Yeah, man. I keep thinking of American Hotto. He was like my big brother when I got into Bitcoin. Guys, I lived all the memes. I stacked sats. I stayed humble. I lived at my parents' house. I sold my car for a shittier car that I'm still driving. You know, I lived below my means as much as possible. I still live a little bit. You know, I got to get a ribeye every once in a while, guys. You know, I can't just live on freaking ground beef here. But I lived all the memes, man. And I tell you that as someone that's been doing it for a while, and if you are newer to the space, like this is the safest, best way to do it. And this is why we constantly come out here and tell you guys, this is what you should do because this is what we do. Actually, I don't own any Bitcoin. I just talk about Bitcoin. But this is the tried and true way to succeed in this next decade is just stacking sats. You don't have to complicate it. Yes, there will be something new and flashy and shiny. There will be a new hype bubble. But the best and safest way to ensure that you hold on to this Bitcoin that you have today for the long run is by just stacking Bitcoin, taking it off the exchanges, securing your wallet, your cold storage. This is the way to win, guys. Just keep it simple. Keep it simple. If I can do it, a 45 IQ Bitcoiner, you can do it as well. I'm sure you have an average IQ. That's like 65 higher points than I have here. So you'll be good. All right, anyways, let's get into the news because Luke brought it up earlier. I do want to kind of cover a little bit about the big, beautiful bill. And then I might fly through this because I did tell you guys yesterday, Luke did do his homework. We will be talking about the multiplier effect. We chatted about it this morning, and you guys really like that. So I might fly through this news real quick, and then we'll get into the multiplier effect for you guys. So let's get into it.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Cold Card. If you're serious about self-custody, Cold Card is the best Bitcoin hardware wallet. There is no second best. The Cold Card Q is the ultimate air-gapped Bitcoin signing device, complete with a full keyboard, large screen, camera, NFC support, and much more. Do you prefer something sleeker? The MK4 is trusted by hardcore Bitcoiners around the world. Both are built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners, secure and open source. Simply Bitcoin viewers get 5% off with promo code SIMPLY. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin today with Cold Card.
Okay, sorry guys. I thought I had this pulled up for you guys. Yeah, like you can tell me and Luke are getting old. We're both having back problems today. Shouts out to Sal. I did a workout this morning and I'm like, man, My lower back's a little wrecked, and look at Luke. He's rolling it out during the ad read. Love it. This is peak performance, guys. Okay, let's get into this story. Let's get into the first story. I'm gonna fly through this, guys. So Luke, I'll cover these two news stories real quick, and then you can chime in real quick. But I really do want to get to the multiplier effect. That's probably more of the fun stuff here. So as you guys can tell, the big beautiful bill passed, and as we were talking about earlier in the week. I think this was around, Friday, the saga started. We covered it on Monday. It looked like maybe some Bitcoin tax exemptions, aka, the capital gains tax was going to get kind of removed for under $600 Bitcoin payments. Well, the big budget bill did pass, but the provision on crypto taxes, as you can see here from the headline, did not pass. They basically said, they ran out of time. But I did see a Dennis Porter tweet essentially or I think it was yesterday, actually, sorry. And he was saying, look, it didn't pass, but this is some good momentum. And now there's some, the conversations happening. This might, be something that we see down the line. Now, I do want to talk about a few of the things that did get passed in the big budget bill. Again, we're not really the most political guys. We are political in the sense that everything is political and we look at it through a Bitcoin lens. But I did see a really good video from Peter St. Onge this morning kind of explaining what did get passed. And he essentially said he gives it an A- on the tax cuts that they were pushing through. He gives it a C- on the spending cuts. They I think in total maybe cut like 400 billion, and that might be more on the higher end. So barely any cuts here. But if you stack up the 200 billion, of course, over time here, a little money here, a little money there, it could potentially be a windfall. And then the worst part about it is they raised the debt ceiling by $4 trillion. So from a Bitcoiner's perspective, from all I'm hearing is money printer is about to go absolutely nuclear. They just entrenched this. They just codified this. Like, all right, $4 more trillion of capital that they're going to create out of thin air. I think the 2020 printing spree was like 4 to 5 trillion, if I'm remembering correctly. So, hey, looks like as much as I'm not a big fan of federal spending, looks like they're going to print a bunch of money. The printer is coming on. And actually, let me pull up this tweet real quick before I go into the Saylor news that we kind of touched on. I have been, as you guys know, I've been saying it on the show for a minute. I'm a TradFi bro now. I'm a macro bro now. And I saw this really good tweet by Matt Hogan kind of explaining. I did kind of talk about this yesterday. Of having a conversation with ChatGPT, and you guys trolled me like Opti has no friends. He's talking to ChatGPT. Now, it's just better than Google. Google's trash now. So I use ChatGPT as my search, and it just gives you quick answers. Anyways, Matt Hogan did this tweet here, and he goes, Ray Dalio is right here. When countries have too much debt, lowering interest rates and devaluing the currency that the debt is denominated in is the preferred path government policymakers are most likely to take. So it pays to bet on it happening. And then I followed it up here. Again, I'm doing a Nico here. I'm just pulling my tweets up here. This is what we're seeing right now. So I have a screenshot of the US dollar index, which is essentially, the strength of the US dollar. And as you can see in the last year, it has been falling off a cliff. It's getting weaker as we speak. So even though Trump is going out there and even Scott Bessent is essentially saying, hey, we want a strong dollar. Publicly, they're saying they want a strong dollar. But via their actions, you're seeing that they're seemingly doing things to weaken the dollar. And then further, again, based on that Ray Dalio quote, I'm sure we've all heard about Trump yelling at, what was it, too late, Powell. Everybody is saying the Fed should cut rates sooner rather than later. Jay Powell seems to be out there just dragging his feet. Who knows what his reasonings are, but he seems to be doing whatever he can to not cut rates. And maybe cutting rates is just, giving up at this point, and it's probably not the best thing to be doing. But again, repeating, when countries have too much debt, I think we're at 37 trillion or almost $37 trillion in debt in the U.S., and that doesn't account for the unfunded liabilities, which I think is in the hundreds of trillions of dollars. When countries have too much debt, lowering interest rates and devaluing the currency, again, what we're seeing here, the currency is getting devalued. They want to cut interest rates. when you devalue the currency that the debt is denominated in, the preferred path government policymakers are most likely to take, so it pays to bet on it happening. This is why you buy Bitcoin. The macro signals are essentially saying what Luke has been saying in the beginning of the show. Everything is pointing towards Bitcoin's going to skyrocket. So that's the first point here. Yes, the big, beautiful bill passed. No, it didn't eliminate capital gains on Bitcoin. And as I was saying, it wasn't even that good in the first place, but it would have been some baby steps. So that's what, that's kind of an update here since I talked about it on Monday. But this is the story that Luke was talking about, and this is on CNBC. And this is absolutely insane. And I think this really goes to the idea that Luke was saying that this Bitcoin treasury company play is just starting. This is just the beginning. So if you are betting that they're going to blow up, like if you're shorting strategy right now, like a lot of TradFi guys are doing, or Metaplanet, you might lose a lot of money. So the headline, public companies bought more Bitcoin than ETFs did for the third quarter in a row. Public companies grew their Bitcoin balance about 18%, according to data provider Bitcoin Treasuries, while ETFs showed an 8% increase in the same period. The market may see a segmentation of leveraged Bitcoin equities with different company profiles offering diversified risk-reward profiles, and the rush for public companies to increase shareholder value by adopting a Bitcoin Treasury strategy may not be around for more than a few years. So they are obviously taking this probably won't last that long. I think a few years could be a decade, to be honest here. I think it's like the way they're framing this, they're saying a few years, like what, 2 to 3 years? I don't know that that's the case. If Bitcoin rips, these companies might be more profitable than ever. As we just covered, Saylor and Strategy is almost literally top 5 most profitable company, period. As I covered yesterday, we had the Bloomberg article. Saylor's $14 billion profits literally launches him into the highest echelon of elite companies like Amazon and JP Morgan. Household names here. And there's still people sitting on the sidelines sleeping on Bitcoin, thinking it's internet meme coin, it's for criminals, it's going to zero. It makes no sense. Like, we are seeing a perfect storm brewing around Bitcoin. If Bitcoin doesn't go past 150K this year, I'm going to be so surprised. I might have to delete my own Twitter account like I was telling my friend to do, because it just makes no sense. Like, these public companies are buying so much Bitcoin. Again, guys, the ETF bought 1 million Bitcoin. Not just the BlackRock ETF, but in total. And then going further, we also did see this news this morning pop out as well, which is absolutely nuts here. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF drives more revenue than its S&P 500 fund. Oof. Guys, I don't think you understand the appetite for Bitcoin. It's either the writing's on the wall that there is fundamental problems in the plumbing of TradFi that they're concerned about, or they're getting caught up in the greed. And I don't think these two ideas are mutually exclusive. Obviously, they want their fiat gains, but there could be, cracks. There could be some smoke in the system that everyone's, as we've been saying for a long time, hedging themselves against some kind of potential catastrophic attack or collapse here. I don't know if you guys saw Jack Mallers go out, but he was throwing some good numbers that, guys, I don't know if you're aware, but we've basically been in a depression for a while now. And something worse than the Great Depression. It just isn't framed that way. It just doesn't have that label. Like, there is an issue in the TradFi. And I'm not trying to go full doomer here, but I think this is why we're seeing the interest into Bitcoin that we're seeing. This is why we're seeing the Bitcoin treasury companies be able to tap into so much fiat liquidity, is because people are looking for an alternative. No one really wants to buy treasuries right now. The returns aren't good. People don't trust the institutions. I think the trust in institutions is probably the lowest it's been in a long time. There's crises all around the world. There's all economic uncertainty. I don't think this is over in a few years, Luke. I think this might just be the beginning.
I'm with you, man. I think it's all going to zero much quicker than most people think. We were talking about the collapse of the Roman Empire, I think, last week. And again, a lot of people don't understand just how quickly that happened. For 700 years, the Roman Empire ruled the world. And they didn't debase, or they didn't change the amount of silver in their currency, the Roman denarius coin. And then they just started debasing it around 50 years before they collapsed. And you can kind of see like this debasement, it's like slowly coming down. It's 2% inflation, then it's 5% inflation, then it's 10% inflation, and then it collapses rapidly a couple of years after. Like, this is what we continue to bang on about here at Simply. Like, currency collapses, they are an exponential process. We've seen hundreds of fiat currencies collapse throughout human history. And whether it was the Roman denarius coin 700 years ago, that when it collapsed the biggest, most successful empire in human history, the Roman Empire, or whether it was the German mark in the early 1920s. All of these processes, if that's a word, they happen exponentially. So again, I think what we're seeing right now with the big beautiful bill, with debt ceilings being continuously raised and raised and raised, they're all really big red signposts. They, it's the metaphorical movie theater with the smoke bellowing out the back window. It's on fire and you need to get out of there while you still can get out of that exit door before it is packed with people. And before we have a metaphorical $900 trillion of wealth trying to squeeze into the 2 million Bitcoin on the exchanges. Because when this puppy starts melting, when this, the people start racing for the exit doors, it's going to get really chaotic really quickly. Again, who knows how quickly this is going to happen, but I would just prepare to, I would like to be prepared for all situations. I think that's the optimal approach. What are your thoughts, Upti?
Yeah, no, as I've been trolling my friend, it doesn't pay to be a doomer. So, life's a lot better when you're an optimist. This isn't just a name here. This isn't just a stage name here. This is a lifestyle. You have to be an optimist to win. And I think that's the idea. Look, there is a lot of doom material out there. Like there is a lot to be concerned about. It's very easy to fall into your algorithmic, programming on social media, and you start seeing, worse and worse and worse media on social media, and you start to think that the world is over, that the apocalypse is around the corner, that the second coming of Christ is here. Whatever you want to say, you can make a bet that, or rather, you can make a case that might be the scenario. But I like to think of the opposite, like. You got to remember, the good guys will win in the end. Like, good always prevails over evil, and it pays off to be an optimist. It always pays off to be optimistic, even if you're seeing all of this crazy stuff. We know what's going to happen. If you understand Bitcoin, you know where this is headed. The short-term stuff doesn't matter. If you are basically not only taking personal responsibility of your money, you're taking personal responsibility of your life. You're focusing on things you can actually change, and that's what really matters here. Like, it will work out in the end. You got to trust, bro. Trust the process, man. I wasn't gonna say trust the plan, but don't just trust the plan. Don't trust, verify, but you'll verify soon that everything will work out in the end. Anyways, I do want to pivot this because I do want to get into the multiplier effect, but shout out to Jan for the $20 super chat. He said, great stuff, guys. Really appreciate it, man. Or woman, I'm not sure. Forgive me, Jan. Or the month. Maybe it's the month giving us money. I don't know. Anyways, thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Yes, it's Optimistic Prime. All right, let's get into the culture, and I will give Luke the floor here, and we are going to talk about the multiplier effect, which you guys really liked yesterday. Apparently, look, full disclosure, I didn't fully understand the multiplier effect for a while, and I actually Googled it this morning. Or sorry, I chat GBT. No, I don't even remember what I did. But apparently the multiplier effect isn't just a Bitcoin effect. So, Luke, maybe I'll read that summary that I read this morning because we both kind of learned. We both learned about it through Bitcoin, but this isn't just a Bitcoin phenomenon. So I think I'll start there, and then you can do. You read the report, and we'll end today's show with just extremely bull-tarded takes here. So let's get into it.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technology. Why HIVE in 2025? Unstoppable growth. As the first ever public miner HIVE's position to quadruple their global footprint, making them one of the world's fastest growing miners in 2025. And with elite operations that consistently top the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash, HIVE's now headquartered in the USA. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable Bitcoin mining. You can catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Casa. Casa makes self-custody easy and secure. As a Bitcoiner, I care about holding my own private keys, but multi-sig can sometimes get tricky. Casa nails it with a multi-key security. So even if one key gets lost or stolen, your Bitcoin stays safe. And you don't give up custody, meaning no one can access your Bitcoin but you. No seed phrase anxiety, no single point of failure. I've been telling my friends and family about Casa for years. Their UX and UI on their app is by far the best in the industry. Inheritance planning is built in, and they even offer Casa for Business if you're thinking about a Bitcoin treasury. Hit up casa.io today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 10% off Casa Standard or Casa Premium. Head over to casa.io.
Okay, guys. So as I was telling you guys this morning, I posed a question as we were kind of prepping for the show. I was like, Luke, are you ready? Did you do your homework, Luke? He's like, I got you, bro. We're good. And we were wrapping up, and I was like, was the multiplier effect is the multiplier effect just for Bitcoin? And so I did a search again. I forget if it was Google or ChatGPT, but the reason I'm here and the reason I give that context is because maybe this isn't like, coming from investing.com or something like that, I never heard of this company or this website here, but I brought it up and I clicked on it because it was like, okay, this seems to not have anything to do with Bitcoin. And I want to see what their take was. And of course, this is understanding the multiplier effect in trading. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but you can probably find this. And you can see here the summary. The multiplier effect is a fundamental concept in trading that significantly influences the outcomes of financial strategies. Its presence is evident in various trading scenarios, which is what I was looking for, from leverage trading to the impact of economic announcements on market trends. For traders, an in-depth understanding of the multiplier's effect is indispensable. It serves as a guide in navigating leverage instruments and in interpreting market responses to economic events. The ability to recognize and appropriately respond to the multiplier effect can mean the difference between substantial gains and considerable losses. So, with that said, Luke, the floor is yours. As I teed you up, understanding the multiplier effect, as apparently a lot of people in the chat weren't really familiar with this concept. I saw people yesterday saying, like, I thought for every dollar that came into Bitcoin, that means that the market cap had to go up, a dollar. Essentially, like, if Bitcoin had to double, go from 2 trillion to 4 trillion, that's essentially saying $2 trillion of capital had to come into the market cap. And then Luke brought in the multiplier effect, and then I added to that and was like, I think the multiplier effects are even bigger than this. So Luke, the floor is yours. What did you come up with after reading this report? How much more bullish are you than you were yesterday?
I didn't think it was possible, but I am even more bullish. I mean, this report is insane. Before we get to the report, let's try to simplify it. So this is how I think of the multiplier effect. Everybody agrees that not all the 21 million Bitcoin are available for sale. All right, we all agree that. There's 5 million Bitcoin that's lost. There's, another 5 million Bitcoin that hasn't really moved in at least 5 years. We know that really there's only about 2 to 3 to 4 million Bitcoin that actually circulates on a somewhat regular basis and goes on and off exchanges and is traded on exchanges and it's bought here and it's sold there. That's like the available supply. The on-chain gurus call this the liquid and highly liquid supply of Bitcoin. The illiquid is the coins that don't move in more than 6 months. So when you factor in just how scarce Bitcoin is and how much Bitcoin there actually is available for sale when new capital wants to come into the Bitcoin market and buy Bitcoin, there is a multiplier effect. So essentially, for every $1 that wants to buy Bitcoin and come into the market, what we've found with this new report is that $1 of new demand pushes up the Bitcoin price by around 8x in the short term. Okay, so this could be a good point to jump into this brand new report. So this is the chart showing us why Bitcoin is so scarce. There's not that much Bitcoin left on exchanges. But then Opti found this report and showed it to me yesterday. And I was not only very happy and very impressed, but I was gobshocked at what Gemini found in this new report. So if we scroll all the way down, they have a long-term Bitcoin market cap multiplier, and they've got a short-term Bitcoin market cap multiplier. So the little green oscillations in the bottom of this chart, this shows the multiplier effect. And you can see it spikes higher in times of high volatility, okay? And essentially the TLDR of this report, again, look at the report. They didn't muck around. They did a lot of digging. They did a lot of number crunching. The guys at Gemini did well with this one. And the synopsis of this report that we're interested in is it says here, for short-term impacts, the 30-day Bitcoin market cap multiplier can range from near 0 to 25x, especially during high volatility periods. So on average, this short-term multiplier is about 8x, meaning $1 of capital coming in will move the market cap up by $8. I just thought, personally, this report is huge, it's massive, and I think that's a really simple overview of what the multiplier effect and what it does in the short term rather. Now the long term, slightly different. And again, I prefer to look at, conservative numbers, but the long term bull market multiplier, this is in bull markets, we see 3.7x. So $1 comes in, this pushes the market cap up by about $3.7. So that's kind of the difference there. In bull markets, we're at 3.7 in the long run. In the short term, we're looking at something much higher, 8x, and even up to 25x in periods of high volatility.
So I'm trying to do quick math here.
Hit me. What you got?
All right, so we're at roughly a $2 trillion market cap right now.
Yep.
To go to 4 trillion market cap, we'll use the conservative number of 3.7 multiplier effect. So that's what, roughly
500 billion.
500, 600 billion of capital that needs to come into Bitcoin. We're seeing some of these companies talk about buying billions of dollars of Bitcoin. We're seeing the ETFs buy a lot of Bitcoin. It's really not that crazy to think Bitcoin can go to 300K. I guess the TLDR here. I don't know. What is someone someone do the fact check here. What is $500 billion in Bitcoin right now? That's currently a quarter of the supply, if that. So obviously that's not possible. Like that, I don't think they'll be able to get a quarter of the Bitcoin supply. What's that? 5 million coins or something like that. But if this does start running and someone or multiple corporate treasuries and the ETFs still kind of are swallowing a lot of Bitcoin, if someone tries to buy like 1 million Bitcoin, basically someone has that panic, or a couple of companies have that panic of trying to buy about 1 million coins, this could run up really fast. Will you go back to the OTC desk real quick, the chart, please?
Absolutely. And here's the thing, Opti, I don't even think we need people wanting to buy 1 million coins. I don't think we need that much demand. There's Matt Hogan, I believe, said that what the ETFs did in the first year, he actually expects them to repeat that in the second year, which again is abnormal. Like that's huge. But that would represent like what? About, I don't know exactly the number of Bitcoin held by ETFs, but it's
Let's see. I'll look for it real quick.
Nice. We're both looking for sauce here.
Yeah, we got the sauce here. So the ETFs, so this is according to Bitcoin treasuries, currently has 1,424,708 Bitcoin at a price value of what's his 100,000 million, 155.5 billion.
Okay. That sounds directionally correct. So if Matt Hogan's right and we see more demand in 2025 than we saw in 2024, then if we see another $150 billion of demand with a 4x Bitcoin multiplier, that would add $600 billion to the Bitcoin market cap. So that would take us from
What,
2 trillion to
2.7 trillion?
Yep. And that
All
would,
right.
that's meaningful move. And that would just be from the ETFs opting. Let's not forget, what were we talking about earlier in the show? We were talking about the fact that public companies have bought more than the ETFs for 3 quarters in a row. So all of a sudden, we're not looking at $150 billion of demand this year. We could be looking comfortably at 400, 500 billion just coming from the ETFs and the public companies. And if you've got $500 billion of demand with an 8x short-term multiplier, let's use that 8x average, all of a sudden you've got $4 trillion added to the market cap.
Yeah.
That would literally take Bitcoin from 2 trillion to 6 trillion. And that would take us to over $330,000 a coin, just with the same amount of buying that we've seen from the ETFs and the public companies. From the past year, we just extrapolate that data out a year. That's it.
Okay, well let's use the conservative numbers that you, because someone in the chat said Checkmatey's been saying it never gets higher than 6x multiplier. What was the number that you just used? 150 billion times 6? Is that what the math you just did? You're muted, bro. Oh, his mic died too. This guy, you gotta come prepared, bro.
I'm always prepared. I got to stick the mic. She's gone. The camera's dead. The mic's flat. So I was just saying I did 2 rounds of maths up here. First one I did was more conservative. Second one was I added up the ETF demand as well as the public company.
Oh, okay. So it was like 300 billion. So 300 billion times 6. That is what, 1.8 trillion. That's a simple double. That's, we'll round it up here. Another 2 trillion coming in. All right, so to my boy that's in the chat right now saying we're not going past 150K, the math's simple. 300K confirmed. Let's go.
Bullish, baby. And again, this is the scary thing that I think, well, this is the thing that I think is going to scare people about this cycle. If the ETFs and if the public companies just buy the same amount of Bitcoin that they did in 2024, in 2025, we just ran the maths. With that short-term Bitcoin bull market multiplier of 8x, we're at over $300,000 a coin, and that is without retail. We've got no retail factored into that price. So what happens if we have another year of this aggressive accumulation from the big boys, the ETFs, and the public companies, and the nation states? Well, we're going to see another 500,000-600,000 Bitcoin leave the exchanges, and we're going to see Bitcoin at multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars a coin, and then retail is going to come into the party late, and they're going to create the parabola. And this is where things get unpredictable. This is where things get really interesting, and this is going to be our first Bitcoin bull market where we have billionaires, nation states, sovereign wealth funds, and the retail speculative crowd, let's say that, hitting that big green buy button on the exchanges all at once. And I think this is going to be the cycle that I'm most interested in. Let's just say that. Who knows what's going to happen in it, but I'm really interested by what's going to happen in the next 6 months. Let's say that up to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you. I think, I'm probably a broken record when it comes to what I think the price is going to do, but I do fundamentally believe the next 6 months, at the very least, the end of this year, things are going to get very interesting. And I just don't see a double top happening. I don't see, 150K as the top happening. Yes, it sounds crazy, Bitcoin moving 50% move from here. But when you look at the multiplier effect, and even if you're conservative, moving the price $1 trillion in market cap doesn't necessarily mean $1 trillion needs to come into Bitcoin to move that price up. It's what, like 300 billion if we're using that conservative 3x multiplier. That's probably on the horizon. That might just be from the ETFs themselves. And now we're seeing the FOMO, the competitiveness around these corporate treasuries. It's looking like billionaires are starting to FOMO. We did see that, Philip Lafont guy go on CNBC, and he's like, I can't go to bed at night thinking about why I didn't buy Bitcoin. And again, when they dip their toes into Bitcoin, a measly 10% of their net worth, like that's a lot of capital. That's a shit ton of capital here. It really feels like it's a new era here. It's a new game being played. And I don't want to say this time's different, but guys, I think we all can kind of agree that this time is different, really just by the sentiment and the interest by the players that are coming into Bitcoin. Again, whether you like it or you don't like it, retail is no longer driving the ship. We're just along for the ride here. We're just literally, what is the little fishes on the whale's belly, you know, that like we eat off the algae off their stomach here. We're no longer in control here. You know, all you need to do is make sure you have a piece of the pie, because it's going up. Like, it has to go up. There's no amount of bearishness that my friend in the chat can say right now to convince me that it's otherwise. And actually, you know, I was gonna say I'm not gonna dox him, but you know, let's.
I'm doxing.
I'm not going to pull it up on the stream, but he said in the chat, so you guys can throw tomatoes at him in the chat. He said bulltardism. There's no cure for it. Yes, you're right. There's no amount of bearishness you can say to me that is going to convince me this isn't going to rip by the end of the year. So there's my 2 sats. I'm not going to fully dox him, but you guys can, he's in the chat. So, you know, have fun trolling him. But yes, there's no cure for bulltardism.
Absolutely razz him up in the chat. I think, again, where we are right now in this cycle, there is no excuse to be bearish on Bitcoin. There is absolutely no excuse. I think, again, the next 6 months is going to be really interesting. I think the next 6 months is going to be the time where you need to have your Bitcoin plan in order. Okay, all I'm going to say is, look, if it's $110,000 Bitcoin today, Bitcoin's at a new all-time high. The money printers are about to be turned on. And if you're not sold on Bitcoin, just spend 10, 20 hours looking into Bitcoin. Go watch a couple of videos, read a couple of articles. If you still think Bitcoin's not for you, that's cool. But, you know, at least if you're ever going to do the work, if you're ever going to just spend 5 hours looking into Bitcoin, look into it now while it's at $110,000, just below its all-time high. We know the data. When Bitcoin breaks all-time highs and it breaks out to a new all-time high, it moves pretty aggressively. So you don't want to be left on the sidelines over the next 6 months if the bulltards are right and if we are in a bull market. Because again, I don't know, Opti, it doesn't look like we've double topped here at 100. It looks like this puppy's breaking out. It looks like it's knocking on the door of 110, and it looks like we're going to move higher, but who knows?
Yeah, we're at a negative 2% from all-time high, guys. It's over, double top, pack it up. It's going to, what was the old ones like? It's going to 1K again. You know, it's over. And yes, shouts out to RB, because this is Hopium Central. This is what you come here for me and Luke to get absolutely bull-tarded on the show. So, man, this was fun. I had fun today. I love speculating on where we're going here. I love throwing out some data and being like, yeah, see, I knew it was going to do what I'm going to do. Guys, this is the funnest part about being a Bitcoiner, is when you can tell all your friends and family, I was right. So, you know, in 6 months, I might have to delete my Twitter account, or I can, you know, rub it in my friend's face and be, see, I was right. I told you I was right. It was me with 45 IQ that was right here, okay? I am the smart one here. I'm the captain now.
What does Trump say? You get tired of me? What's that Trump from the Trump?
You know, for like last month, I was like, is this what winning feels like? Now I'm like, man, I am more convinced that I'm actually winning than ever before. So no, I'm not tired yet. If this is what winning feels like, this is boring. You know, I thought winning would be more fun. This is not that fun yet. Like I must be dopamine fried here. I need some more dopamine here. And the only source of that dopamine is the Bitcoin price going nuclear. So give me dopamine, Bitcoin. I need you to rip. Number go up is the only dopamine source that I like.
Maybe we'll hit a new all-time high as soon as we end this stream, Upty.
That would be cool. I'd like that. That'd be great. Yes, this is incurable. This is incurable hopium here. It's simply Hopium Central. We have rebranded. All right, man. Well, Luke, thank you so much. This one was actually fun. I had fun. Some days, you know, it feels like a job. Some days they're just like, man, I'm just bullshitting with my friends here. So this was one of those days, man. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Of course, smash the like button, comment. Tell us we're super bulltarded in the comments. Well, I usually avoid the comments because you guys are kind of mean sometimes. But look at these comments here today. Tell me if we're too bulltarded. Of course, hit the subscribe button, man. Well, Luke, thank you for filling in this week. You do get a break for the rest of the week, at least on the show. I will be back tomorrow. Nico's still on vacation. He's doing some family stuff. And you're stuck with me for 2 more days. So I'm sure we're going to get really bulltarded by the end of this week. I'll have some good stuff for you guys tomorrow. Anyways, Luke, appreciate it, man. I'll see you on the flip side.
Thanks for having me, bro. Have a good day, guys.
Yes, sir. All right, guys, we are out of here.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.